Stephanie White was unable to control herself. Fever supporters are upset that she chose to become personal rather than coach. Her remarks over Khloe BBY's benching were vile, contemptuous, and blatantly offensive. You can be sure that this is more than just a single game. Let's discuss what's actually going on here. Just a quick query. Do you believe White is undermining the team or shielding Caitlyn Clark? Khloe BBY ought to be on this squad the following season, after all. Okay. Is it possible to say the same of the coach? Now let's set the scene. Once more, the Indiana Fever are caught in the midst of a storm. Not the Seattle storm either. I'm referring to a real mess that they created themselves. Because the last thing you want is for your coach to start picking fights with her own squad when you're losing games against teams you should be winning and you're about to lose the playoffs. However, here we are. She occasionally takes down 2 in about a minute and a half. She's basically outscoring every minute she's on the field. Did she believe that she should sit out last night because the scoring was so high? Stephanie White has commented, so don't worry. We'll address the Fever fans who detected it last night, so don't worry. BBY Khloe. Fans definitely remember the name. There's a reason they nickname her Red Kryptonite. Each time she immediately causes offense when she hits the court. Within a minute, 2 threes. Completed. When the starters appear to be lifeless, a big spark comes from the bench. That's her job. She is not requesting 35 minutes. She doesn't want to be the star. She simply shows up, gets to work, and contributes to the team. Crazy notion. Huh? Allowing a player who scores points to score points. I'm not sure what that means. However, that seems to be too much for Stephanie White, as she benched Khloe entirely rather than using her in a game where the Fever's offense appeared to be operating on Windows 95. No minutes. She wasn't even permitted to remove her warm-ups. In response to a follow-up question from reporters, she responded, "Oh, the excuse was chef's kiss pathetic. Defensive matchups. A few of our switches. Really? We're going with that story? That it is impossible to trust the one player who constantly shoots the ball. Because she might, what? Ignore a rotation. Half of the crew is out there getting roasted nevertheless in the meantime. Let us keep the shooter fastened to the bench, of course. Wonderful. The defensive matchups didn't appeal to me. What do supporters of the Fever dislike? Defeating pathetic teams. What they dislike is that. Fans of the Fever dislike that. It was immediately spotted by fans. It was a social media frenzy. For Khloe BBY, 0 minutes is the most repulsive of all unpleasant tasks. One of the night's most popular comments was that one. And since it doesn't feel like coaching right now, it wasn't incorrect. It seems intimate, as if White harbors resentment toward Khloe and is allowing her ego to take precedence over what is best for the team. Fans are also tired of it. Whatever term you use to describe what transpired in the second half of this game, tell me what caused it. Yes, I believe we occasionally dribbled too much. We didn't have any off-ball movement. We stood for a long time. It's almost as if we handed Kelsey the ball and simply tried to observe her at work. Yes, and we're not at our best at that time. Yes, we want to hold the ball, of course, but we also need to keep moving both with and without the basketball. It was getting stuck, I guess. We want to play 0 after all. Basketball was played 5-1 and we weren't. And it's something that must be obtained. It aches to move and you know we don't like it. Consider what would happen if we also had 8 turnovers for 13 points in the second half. So we didn't deal with it. People start to doubt everything after making a decision like this. Is Stephanie White's focus on her defensive mindset preventing her from seeing what's in front of her? Or is she even attempting to win games? The Fever are talented. They have one of the league's most loaded rosters on paper. Second-year student Caitlyn Clark, Khloe BBY, Sophie Cunningham, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and Lexi Hull. That team shouldn't be struggling to make ends meet. A team like that ought to be in the upper half of the rankings. Instead, they're barely surviving. You are one defeat away from losing your postseason spot. Was the decision to not play her made, or was she plugged in to attempt to spark the offense a little bit? Indeed, there were some ideas. It matched up more defensively than anything, in my opinion, with the way we were going to try to play them or with some of our switches and other things. That was the primary cause. The worst part is still to come. It's not just Khloe's minutes that have fans furious. They're making connections. They are beginning to suspect that Stephanie White is more concerned with advancing her personal goals than with keeping her players safe, particularly Caitlyn Clark. To be honest, how long would White last if Caitlyn hadn't been present and hadn't made this franchise a must-watch on television? The inexpensive folding chair wouldn't be as heated as her seat. Chair in July. However, White receives cover because Clark's name appears on the marquee. She is capable of making bad choices. She has the ability to bench contributions and dismiss it with ambiguous coach language. The person left to bear the consequences of these choices is the celebrity she is meant to be defending. Fans are also aware of it. In an attempt to compensate for her coach's refusal to play the pieces around her, they witness Clark running herself into the ground. They observe Sophie exposed in. Mitchell takes contested stepbacks as he turns the corner. They watch as the Fever's offensive stalls and BBY rots on the bench. They see White fold her arms on the sidelines following the defeats, appearing to be a substitute teacher who has already given up. That's the picture. It's also unsightly. Did you run with 7 or only the 8 that you ran with during the rotation? What was the idea there, or was it just that things were flowing nicely and you wanted to let it go? Yes, I believe that defense played a part. Because of the manner they play, we were able to implement the defensive coverages that we intended to have against this. Well, some of that was also rebounding. We made sure that we had folks standing by while we were in certain switches so that we could recover. I believe that the most significant defensive issue we faced was simply an excessive amount of fouling. We used that small lineup at the end to give us a little more room offensively, but you have to be able to take care of the ball to give yourself a chance. And we didn't perform that well enough in the second half. The league is pleading for credibility, which is ironic given all of this. Caitlyn Clark is fulfilling her role as the bridge that successfully attracted millions of new fans. Fever games are trending, tickets are sold out, and ratings are rising. However, the league as a whole appears to be a circus when casual viewers tune in and witness this type of behavior, with coaches ruining their own squads, players benched without cause, and celebrities being hung out to dry. Furthermore, that isn't Caitlyn's fault. The players aren't even to blame for it. Leadership is that. Stephanie White is that person. Let's take a moment to go back. White has previously engaged in this behavior. Questionable rotations, haphazard benchings, and a refusal to ride the hot hand. There is a pattern, and the justification is consistently the same. Matches. Give me a chance to translate that. It indicates that I didn't want to do it and I didn't feel like it. To be questioned. However, you know what? Fans are asking a lot of questions. They have stopped acting like this is just another coaching session. They're referring to it as unpleasant. And there is actual fallout. Fans of the Fever aren't only angry right now. I can't take this anymore. Or I'm done watching until Caitlyn comes back. These are the kinds of statements that cause you to lose fans. You can convert momentum into indifference in this way. Because why should people spend if they believe that personal grievances, rather than basketball, are deciding the games? Let's discuss numbers. The Fever could miss out on the playoffs by 1 spot. And it has nothing to do with their lack of skill. Their coach's insistence on sabotaging herself is the reason. Established teams are being embarrassed by expansion teams like Golden State in the meanwhile. Their coach has her team performing above expectations, has a structure in place, and gets the most out of her players. Coaching, that's their weight. White is engaging in malpractice. And I don't say it lightly because it's your fault if you're losing to teams with half your firepower, even with shooters like Sophie and Khloe, Aaliyah Boston, the current Rookie of the Year, and Caitlyn Clark, the most anticipated prospect in decades. Those aren't defensive games. It's not unlucky. That is a failure as a coach. For a period. Another wrinkle that fans are discussing is this one. Is there a hidden agenda? Some claim that White blatantly excludes some players while favoring others. Some are even going so far as to say that she dislikes particular personalities or backgrounds because it is personal bias. I'm not here to make unsubstantiated charges. However, I will state that when your court decisions are so illogical, people will begin to seek out extrajudicial justifications. Good luck trying to dispel that story after it has taken hold. So here we are, a fever. Fans are furious. The team is trending due to the worst benching of the season, not a significant victory. And out here, Stephanie White is behaving as though this is just another workday. The league's face is meant to be Caitlyn Clark. Additionally, her own coach is destroying the elements that could support her success rather than putting in place a structure that works for her. I don't know what sabotage is if that isn't it. This is when it gets even more disgusting. Because it wasn't merely a coincidence once the Khloe BBY benching rumor gained traction. Fans are crying over the minutes. It grew to represent something greater. The name Caitlyn Clark kept coming up, along with the flaws in the Indiana Fever organization. Because, let's face it, you're not just penalizing one player when you bench a player like BBY and use a defensive matchup justification that doesn't work. Clark is being punished by you. When Clark is doubled, you're losing one of the few teammates who can truly make shots. All of the league's teams have found it out. Force the ball out of Caitlyn's hands, trap her high, and challenge the Fever supporting cast to defeat you. Since her rookie year, that has been the book. And you know what? It functions. However, it only functions when the Fever shooters are not on the field. That tactic becomes much riskier if BB is on the floor. All of a sudden, you must protect the corners. Clark has outlets all of a sudden. Nevertheless, Stephanie White cut the power. Additionally, the message conveyed is harsh. Fans are calling it sabotage because it states, "We'd rather lose sticking to my system than win letting Clark thrive." Consider the optics of this situation. The Fever went from being a bottom feeder to being broadcast nationwide nearly every night thanks to Caitlyn Clark. Jersey sales soared because of her. Because of her, the league is now being discussed on ESPN, FS1, and even random morning shows that previously showed no interest. However, her coach is taking proactive steps to her work more difficult. White is reducing the size of the floor rather than encircling Clark with shooters. She is diminishing her rather than boosting her. How can you not take that personally if you're Caitlyn? Then there are the fan theories. These days, they are ubiquitous. Some claim that White is threatened by the attention. Others claim that by keeping her teammates from taking the stage, she is attempting to degrade Clark. Some even contend that White simply dislikes specific personalities and sends messages through her spins. Since perception is reality, it hardly matters if those theories are accurate. Additionally, it is currently believed that Stephanie White has lost the plot. The timing is what exacerbates this. The Fever aren't sitting pretty in the postseason. They are barely surviving. They will be fired after one poor week. Therefore, every choice, every rotation, and every minute matters. And you're telling me that having Khloe BBY shackled to the bench is the right course of action in that high-stakes situation? Please, that is ego, not strategy. Now compare that with the practices of other teams. The New York Liberty is worth a look. Sandy Brondello has a well-defined plan. Everyone is aware of their responsibilities, and she lets the shooters do what they do in order to maximize her stars. Due to their coach's ability to balance rotations, Golden State's new team is immediately competitive. The Fever, meanwhile, appear to be making it up as they go along. Before each game, it's as if the coach is spinning a wheel. Lexi Hall's 30th birthday is tonight. Khloe receives 0 tomorrow. Why? Who knows? Baby, it's matchup magic. Fans are also tired. It was neatly summed up in one tweet. The WNBA is constantly pleading for attention. And then this fool appears. Display. Is it incorrect, though? Since half of your teams don't even have scouts, you can't say you're creating a professional competitive league. You cannot claim to be a growth advocate while allowing coaches to bench successful shooters in crucial games without cause. Additionally, when decisions appear personal rather than professional, you can't expect followers to continue supporting you. Here's the real kicker, though. Caitlyn's future is impacted by this. Everyone is familiar with Clark. Is the key to success. For the past 2 seasons, the WNBA has been experiencing the CC effect. However, stars don't always remain content. The clock starts to tick if Clark believes that her time is being wasted by the Fever and that her coach is undermining her. Do you recall the NBA incident involving Luka Doncic in Dallas? The first time in Cleveland with LeBron? The goal of stars is to win. Bad coaching choices don't keep them around to act as a babysitter. The Fever. Now that they have a superstar bearing the burden of the entire league, the front office needs to wake up. Additionally, they are allowing Stephanie White to ruin games with pointless rotations rather than shielding her or providing her with support. That can't be sustained. Not for the league, not for the fans, and not for Clark. Additionally, it is evident in Clark's body language. Watch the previous 2 defeats again. She's annoyed. Teammates are being yelled at by her. When her wide-open eyes don't go away, she's flinging her hands up. Immaturity isn't that. That is an example of a competitor realizing she is up against her own squad. And if it goes on, more people than simply Fever fans will be demanding White's head. The national media will cover it. Those will be the broadcasters. Who doesn't want to watch Clark's best years wasted due to poor coaching? What does this leave us with, then? At a crossroads, really. Stephanie White has 2 options. Either swallow her pride, begin using the best players on the court, and acknowledge that her fixation on defense isn't working. Or she may continue to overcommit, drive away supporters, and watch as the Fever ebbs and flows out of postseason contention. And guess what occurs if that occurs? Caitlyn won't be held accountable. Khloe BBY won't be hit. White will take the brunt of it. And with good reason. Because it's your responsibility as a coach to make the most of your roster, not to take it personally, to be mean to your own bench, and most definitely not to undermine the one player the league cannot pay. To lose. What do you think, then? Is Caitlyn Clark's ascent being thwarted by Stephanie White? Or is this merely inexperienced coaching? In any case, Clark deserves better, and the Fever's chances of making the playoffs are in jeopardy. Leave your comments below. If you're tired of the bullshit, hit the like button and remember to subscribe for more raw takes.